Chris Black coming to you live from beautiful Dallas, Texas. Jason, check out that weird image art piece behind my head. It's a maestro conducting an orchestra. We are in the arts district of Dallas. So I think that's the reason for these choices.
Have you seen the movie Tar? It's very similar to Tar. It's very Tar.
It's
a black and white image of a blonde woman conducting.
I think that this probably predated Tar.
Is there a chance that Tar was based on this photograph?
I don't want to say that because that would be overstepping. Obviously, I'm not an expert. I haven't talked to the creator. I haven't talked to the stars, but it does.
I thought you were big into photography.
Yeah, I am. I'm not big into Hollywood, but I'm big. But I told you this. I watched a movie yesterday that I loved,
which is so crazy. What is going on with you? You're getting soft, bro. You watching movies? What's next?
You think I wanted to watch this? I was forced to watch it.
You're gonna eat a steak au poivre. What's gonna happen next?
I actually am going to a French place for lunch. But no, I don't
get the caprese, no tomatoes.
It was just it was the Holdovers with Paul, an Alexander Payne movie starring friend of the show Paul Giamatti. Mm-hmm. And it's just good, man. The music is good. You know, I'm a sucker for a coming of age story. That's kind of my kink.
What was the music?
A lot of weird like stuff I'd never heard of. I Shazammed a lot of it, all like kind of 70s like folk, because it's based in the 60s. Mm-hmm. So maybe 60s actually, like folky.
So not only did you watch a movie, you Shazammed it multiple times. This is a new dawn. It's a new day.
No, I Shazam everywhere all the time. Shazam, LinkedIn, my two favorites.
Oh,
those are my two. Those are my go-tos.
Those are the
bro.
two most beep apps anyone could ever have. Oh my gosh.
That's right.
As a
That's
DJ,
right.
it's like, especially one who learned how to play on vinyl, you can't be Shazamming. You like if it's not already in your mental, then you just have to like commit when you put the sword in the stomach as a Japanese sword samurai.
I would like to agree with you, but I find information gathering fun. And if I hear a song I like,
nobody can say that LinkedIn is fun.
LinkedIn's the greatest thing that's ever. LinkedIn is amazing because it shows a different kind of personality type that I don't encounter in my daily life.
Which is thirsty for a job energy. What is the energy?
No, it's more like people who should not be allowed to express themselves expressing themselves. Does that make sense? Like it feels like a safe.
It's like Facebook for people who have jobs.
Exactly. It's a politically free Facebook for people with jobs.
Oh, that's politically free. That's true.
It doesn't talk about that, but it's just you see people who probably work with numbers for a living, and they're writing long soliloquies about how to succeed in business. It's just pure entertainment, and it's a different kind of person, and I like to be exposed to all kinds of people to know who to hate the most, and that's kind of the research that I do.
Keep your enemies closer. Type B is what you're saying.
Exactly.
I remember when I was on LinkedIn for like 6 months, and I was like, bro, I cannot be on here anymore. It is just this is not my people at all.
I look at it every day. Oh. Yeah, it's not my people either. That's the whole fucking point.
I mean, you still have Facebook.
Oh, definitely. Yeah, but I would rather do that than be part of a Discord or something. At least I keep it real.
Of course.
Well, Facebook I just keep for the same reason, for absolute looking, voyeurism, if you will.
So in terms of cars, I'm a whip guy. So Facebook, that's like your old school. It's in the garage. You take it out. You don't look at it 8 hours a day. It's not your daily driver like Instagram or Twitter.
You drive it on Sunday afternoon. You take it out with the family, get a burger. Yeah. You know what I mean? just kind of
Twitter.
Have some fun.
Twitter. That's your Cybertruck. You're in that thing morning, noon, and night, breakfast, lunch, and dinner.
Oh, that's the Cybertruck on 24's Bose sound system. I got a woofer in the back. It's not a game when it comes to that. Yeah. Okay.
The woofer has flooded out, and I have killed 4 children.
I got a flooded woofer. Okay.
Yeah. Doctor says I got a flooded woofer. I can play tonight, but I can't sing.
I'm afraid that my woofer is flooded.
Have you seen on social media the rise of Christian night clubbing?
Oh, of course I've seen that. Yeah, of course. I mean, all Christian stuff doesn't really surprise me because I feel like anything that comes up, I experience some form of it as a youth, or at least the idea of it. But it is pretty funny.
Do you
that being said,
because I feel like Christian social events have been happening for decades, but it's sort of a FUBU, keep it in the congregation kind of thing. You don't really see them doing outbound marketing, right? No.
We should
no out of office at least.
When we have shows, we should call it a congregation. Yeah, it's definitely a FUBU situation, but it's also like, who else would want to go to that shit? But
because it's not like the Christian people to try and make a buck off of the faith, right?
Oh, not at all. They would never do that. They would never pass around a plate and demand that you give 10% of your income.
So if there's no bottle service, unless it's holy water or something like that, how are they making money? Because the nightclubs make money off of alcohol, and if no alcohol is allowed, then you just have to do a private buyout and then charge people like $100 a ticket?
No, they're probably just writing it up as a marketing expense, like many corporations do, to bring more people in and therefore make more money. It seems like a loss leader. I'm not.
Okay.
My father actually was the part of his volunteer work growing up. He was the lead accountant of the church.
He knows where the bodies are buried. He's like, I don't talk about that time in my life, Christopher.
I'll give him a call and just see what he knows about Christian night clubbing. Who knows? Maybe he's sneaking out on the weekends and going himself.
I mean, it is
anything's possible.
It is coincidental that this is popping up at the end of the fiscal year, isn't it? Like all of these in my history in the nightclub world, every club would always have a toy drive. Sometime right before the end of the year, sneak that in. And wouldn't you know, we got over $85,000 worth of toys donated. And you're welcome, and I will be deducting that from our,
of course,
our year to date.
Of course, no one needs a tax break like Dre's. Thank you to the H-Wood Group for kind of all they do.
Nightclubs and the Christian church. It's like best of both worlds. That's like Kanye and Jay-Z coming together in the booth. That's like,
that's true.
What have we been doing this whole time? We're the two top scammers in the world. Let's combine our forces.
Honestly, it's true. Honestly, it's true. Like I don't know what I guess the idea of a Christian nightclub is that you're just going to dance with your friends to music that doesn't have curse words or sexual overtones.
Actually, now that you bring up music and the fact that you can't do anything sexual, maybe this was from the mastermind of Chance the Rapper, the number one,
honestly,
Christian ass, pussy ass rapper.
The blueprint for the Christian wife guy, but in a fitted hat.
He was born again.
I think Chance could. Unfortunately, I would like to blame this on Chance, one of the worst of all time. But I think that this feels so distinctly Southern California, and I don't know that for a fact. But it feels like the rise of the scammer fun church is such a distinctly Los Angeles kind of based thing.
Yeah, I guess so. There is a TV show called Righteous Gemstones showcasing how it started in America's South, where you're from. But if you want to,
I mean
point the finger Spider-Man style at me, then take shots at my fitted. Good luck.
I just mean more.
And the California Angels. Yeah, we are chosen.
I just mean that the kind of, because of Hillsong and the modern, that thing feels very California to everyone. Let's not forget about Mosaic. Like stuff like that doesn't exist in the South. Like there's big dumb churches.
You try.
That I don't think they try that hard because they know they can't do it. They don't have access to that amount of fear of God. Like there's no.
We like the good Lord. We don't care for postmodernism.
Yeah, they can't.
I don't enjoy minimal aesthetics. It makes me nervous.
They're not. Can y'all put some on the walls in here? I don't know why this looks like Kim and Kanye's house. This is weird.
And and also in the South, like, imagine a church having an EV charging station.
That's what I mean.
Ugh.
That's what I mean.
I'd rather take my chances in hell. You know what I mean? I'd rather dance with the devil.
Imagine going to an old school Southern Baptist church and they're teaching a kind of a spin class for the younger generation. It just doesn't make sense. It doesn't work. But I do think that the Christians will do anything they can to save people, to get them in there, get them dunked, and get them to heaven. And I think that if it takes two turntables and a microphone, that's okay.
When you say get them dunked, you mean Nike SBs on the feet?
No, I'm not talking about the pigeons. I'm talking about being baptized.
Oh, okay, copy that.
When you're dunked underwater, just for someone that's like obviously going to hell like you. I thought you would know this stuff, but I guess
I'm familiar with baptisms. I've seen it on TV and film. I don't know if I don't think I was baptized, and if I was, it didn't take, did it?
You weren't, and I wasn't either, and that's part of the reason that my family loves me less than my sister. But that's fine. We've kind of
they went to go put me in the water. They tried to dump me in the bird bath, and I made a hissing sound like a cat.
I mean, I'm a known water baby. I do flock to the ocean and feel comfortable there, but being held under by like a white guy for a few seconds too long to wash away my sins. I hadn't sinned that much. I was only like 12. You know, what have I done? I haven't done anything yet.
Being held against my will by an older white guy.
I mean, it sounds hot, kind of, but
and it's so wet everywhere.
Oh, okay. We have a guest today. Dana Brown is the former editor of Vanity Fair, deputy editor of Vanity Fair. And he has a book that I read recently called Dilettante, True Tales of Excess, Triumph, and Disaster. Fun story kind of about being pulled out from behind the bar by Graydon Carter and thrown into the Condé Nast system and all the things that come with that. But now Dana writes screenplays, etc., and he listens to this podcast.
Mm-hmm.
So
I think we can talk. I know you have a lot of thoughts on power lunching, etc., Chris. So I think I want to talk about that. Yes. I want to talk about Dana. Shut the fuck up for 1 second. Just kidding. You're fine. Yeah. So I'm excited to get into all of this stuff. I know he spent a lot of time front of house, back of house, expediting. And he's spent a lot of time doing coke in the dish pit, hopefully. So he also maybe wrote a book. We'll see about that too. Let's give him a jingle.
Sorry for my decor, Dana. I'm in a hotel room in Dallas. This isn't my usual. I know you thought this was my house.
But by the way, I apologize for my decor because I'm in my bedroom because my little desk that looks sort of chic on Zoom is in the front room with big windows, and there's a fucking ambulance that goes by like every 5 minutes. So you're getting bedroom vibes here.
It's nice.
Right. No, that's okay. I want to ask about the TV though. It's looking a little small.
You know what? Okay, it's sort of embarrassing. This was a hand-me-down from my brother. This is the bedroom TV, by the way. This isn't the real TV.
I know. I'm sure you have I'm sure you have a 65-inch in the living area. No question.
This was a hand-me-down after the last one fell off the wall and got cracked. My brother said, "Oh, I have a TV. Do you want?" And so I took it temporarily, and it's been there for like 5 years. I mean, it's also like ancient. Like it looks like pixelated when you watch it on it. It's
sure
terrible.
Now, the real question is: did the TV fall off the wall because you shoddily installed it, or did a TaskRabbit fuck that up?
I think I fucked it up. I should not be trusted with shit like that. I'm just
no, me neither. I don't even attempt to.
I'm terrible.
Jason's a real handyman around the house. So I know this.
You
is
and Chris are
him.
cut from the same cloth. And that cloth is not available at Home Depot.
Yeah. Once in a while, I will try to do something and I will fuck it up so badly that it then costs 3 times more to get it fixed from what I did because the wall then needs to be fixed. But this was like a total disaster.
Okay. No, that's okay. Look, we've all been there. We've all made mistakes.
But by the way, look at that bed, that leather sort of square pattern. That's really awful.
Chris, are you staying at an Ian Schrager property?
I don't think Ian Schrager's ever been to Dallas before.
No,
but I mean, maybe.
He might have served prison time. No, he was in Louisiana.
Close enough.
What would I do in Dallas?
No, this design of this hotel is very, very interesting, and I'm going to get to the bottom of it. I just got here, so I haven't had time to dig in on the choices. But I'll give you guys a full report from the gym.
Please.
If there's any other kind of gathering areas for guests.
It would be nice for you to go out and just hate every restaurant you eat at in Dallas, because you hate every restaurant you eat at for the most part, which I love about
Dana,
you.
It's funny you say that because I think that Jason actually hates more restaurants than me.
Jason, I read your Craig's. By the way, Craig's is the worst name for a restaurant in the history of restaurants. And I don't care that Craig, I can't even say it properly because I just want to say Craig. I know that he's like a figure and was at Dantana's, but it's in that sort of corridor of just like where food goes to die.
Yeah, that's right.
It's not really known for food over there, but there's great shopping. There's a Byredo, there's an Acme, there's the Palace store, of course. There's obviously the famous Max Field. I'm sure you've gotten several blouses there.
There's
in
a
your
beautiful.
town.
The Earth Cafe has a delicious tomato
But
soup.
don't you think if you're carrying around some Acme bags or whatever, you get a little hungry after shopping around and you want to eat a decent meal? And Craig's does not sound like the answer. Anyway, I thought it was a really really funny good review, by the way.
I did.
Thank
I did
you, Dan. I
too.
appreciate
I did
that.
too. If you guys haven't read it yet, check it out on Taste Cooking. But the we ate there, and both of us were like, I don't even think this is bad. This is just weird. Almost is kind of what I felt like. Like the food wasn't bad enough to eat. It was just weird.
You know what it sounds like? When I first started going to LA for work, like mid 90s, the food in LA was not good. Like there was some sushi, there was some good sushi, but you would go to a lot of places that sounded like Craig's.
Yeah.
That they all had this sort of deconstructed Caesar salad on the menu. It was just like it was chops. It was like Chop House stuff. And I think you can't do that in LA anymore. I think the quality and level of food in LA has gotten so good in the last 20 years that you just can't get away with a Craig's anymore. And it might be a hot spot for a little while, and B-list celebrities might be going there to get photographed outside. But
I think restaurants like that have legs or staying power because there are enough people whose palates and appreciation of restaurants are so low or have just been decimated.
Maybe
where they're like, oh, this place. There's a paparazzi and there's a TV. I'm good.
Maybe
food is an afterthought kind of vibe.
I would say this though. I
don't like that.
There are places that do what Craig's does better than Craig's.
Yeah.
And that's why, that's what, like Jason said in the South Beverly Grill, the Grill in the Alley, as he said, any place with grill in the name is basically doing better.
Is it that sort of like country club food revival? Is it that sort of thing? Filet mignon drenched in some sauce and things like that.
I think it's more. It's like it's like if you're an old guy and you need like a chop and a baked potato, and a shrimp cocktail. But I also need to know that like chicken fingers and ranch are also not too far if I need them. Like,
got it.
Like it just feels safe. Like I won't feel attacked by the menu where you're like, oh, I don't want to eat any of this stuff. I don't know what that is.
But why? Yeah, I mean, why Drake chooses to eat there is beyond my comprehension. Because there's not even any chicks in there. At least when we were there, it wasn't like there was like a hair.
In 2013,
he brings his own. I'm sure, but like I'm like, what's everybody? It was just like being kind of like at any restaurant in that part of town, crowd wise. At least the night, Jason. I mean, the night we were there, it was just kind of like, oh yeah, these are just kind of regular corny rich people. There was no there was no sheen to it in the way that I wanted there to be. Is what I'm trying to say.
Well, and I think, and this goes to like to being a restaurant critic and reviewing restaurants is, it's not just about the food. It's about the choice of color of leather on the banquettes. It's the art on the walls. It's the lighting. It's the crowd. It's the music that they play. And it doesn't sound like Craig's has much of that. Going.
No, it has a lot of it. It's just not good. Yeah,
well,
it has all
the wrong. Yes,
it's in spades, but none of it is
attempts
good.
were made.
Yes.
Yeah, attempts were made.
Yeah. Actually, speaking of food writing and criticism, since it's something that I'm starting to dabble in and something that you've had a lot of experience editing over the years, I'm sure, and you have restaurant experience and you love food and dining out, so you're well versed in that. I think now that we've sort of moved away from the anonymous restaurant critic, more or less, like every big critic, we kind of know what they look like and who they are. Do you think that nowadays, because of that, we should just start allowing people to just give us gifts in an effort to do a better review? Like I feel like we need to change the whole structure, and I feel like I need to be able to be swayed by a restaurant. I don't want to catch them on a bad night. I want them to try and give me the best meal of my life.
Well,
and then I will write a better review.
Yeah, I mean, you want to judge them on their best. I don't know. As an old school, what has happened to journalism in the past 20 years since the fucking internet came around? I'm a little old school with that. I don't think, if they're going to send me a, 5-ounce tin of caviar to my house for Christmas, well, I mean, I'd probably take it. I wouldn't tell anybody, but.
Well, it's been going on in other facets of journalism. I mean, that's like the whole reason most magazines are able to exist is because the people that work there don't quit because they get to go on press trips.
To me, I think of it as like overage points on a soccer game where it's like, it's not going to change. I'm not giving you an extra point or giving you, but like, you send me a tin of caviar, the restaurant review is 5% better. It's not 50% better. You know what I mean? Just little increments.
So you're saying TJ is for sale. I've always been for sale, but I'm glad that you've kind of caught up.
I'm pretty much for sale, like 95% of me. My concern about this is that I have
all my holes.
I'm hoping to start to review restaurants more often for airmail.
Okay.
I have one coming out in this week.
Oh yeah, Harrison told me this. It's about Casa Cruz, correct?
Casa Cruz, yes.
Dan, it's not a competition, sweetie. Come on.
No, I know.
Okay, but this is exciting for me. Well, I guess somebody in that position then. Do we need an anonymous reviewer anymore? Or do you at least put your res down under a different name?
I think nobody's anonymous anymore. I think it's impossible.
That's the thing.
I mean, the days when
I anonymously reviewed Craig's.
That's because Craig's isn't a new also Craig's is not like, I feel like that only matters when a restaurant's like new and hot in the first year.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
Well, I think it's because my name is not Jonathan Gold or Anthony Bourdain or P. Wells. That's why I was able to go in and dine out like a regular person.
I don't think a restaurant like Craig's gives a shit, to be honest with you. But I think some places I
don't think they give a shit. I went to Casa Cruz. I made a reservation under my name.
Wait, can you tell us? Can you tell everyone what Casa Cruz is? Obviously, we're familiar with all members clubs, but you go ahead.
Have you been, Chris, to Casa Cruz?
I haven't been invited.
Wow.
It sounds like a grinder house.
Okay, well, first of all, let me tell you, it's actually not really a private club.
Okay.
Like you can make a reservation and you can go have a drink at the bar and eat at the restaurant on the second floor.
Okay.
And then there's like 3 or 4 more floors. It's in a beautiful old townhouse in maybe the worst location in New York City. I think it's like 63rd off of like Park Avenue. So it's not quite Upper East Side.
Yeah.
Not quite Midtown. I mean, not that if it was in Midtown, it wouldn't make it any better.
In New York's worst neighborhood.
Yeah, but Midtown makes sense. You know what I mean? Midtown's
it's kind of
fine.
an odd, but Midtown doesn't feel as busy during the days. And I think those places are lunch places. You know what I mean? The places that do really well are lunch places, maybe a little the pre-theater thing. So Casa Cruz it's an English restaurateur from London who has a restaurant in London that's sort of a celeb hotspot.
What's it called?
It might be called Casa Cruz.
Okay.
I could be wrong. I think it might be
inconsequential.
But so he bought this giant townhouse.
So he's successful restaurateur. He's doing
a successful restaurateur. Right. But wait, because I thought it was a private club, and Graydon thought it was a private club, and everyone thought it was a private club because there's so many new private clubs.
Yes.
And like the Aman, I forget how much the Aman costs, but it's out. Like the price, it's like this like war over pricing.
Don't get me started on Zero Bond.
Totally. And I talk about in this I really talk about all the clubs and the history of clubs in New York before I get to Casa Cruz. But Casa Cruz charges, in the press that I've seen, $250,000 to $500,000 a year. Now, this gets you access to the upstairs private rooms, but anyone can get access to the restaurant on the second floor. So I don't really know what the exclusivity is about.
If I paid $250,000 a year to go to a third floor, there better be some wild shit going on the third floor.
Well, and by the way, they're considered investors in the place.
So this is a scam. Okay, this is a scam. I got it now.
You just ruined the end of my piece, by the way, which is kind of where I get to, because there is nothing worse to invest in than a restaurant. Maybe a film, but like a restaurant is, especially in a city where like the failure rate is so high, to invest that much money in a restaurant in a townhouse that cost almost $30 million for them to buy. And I can't imagine how much. And
you're not getting a piece of the real estate if you invest in the restaurant, is my guess. I just want to be clear.
I don't know, but it's sort of madness. And I went, in fairness, I went on a Sunday night, but the place was empty, completely empty. And I don't think if you spent $30 million on the real estate for the place and it's empty at any point, I think you're fucked.
You should be upset.
I think you're fucked.
You should be concerned.
I mean, like, you need to
be
selling drinks and food.
Yes,
and you need to be
yes.
packed. And so we'll see. Which goes back to, I am absolutely not for sale when it comes to restaurant reviews.
Of course. Well,
how about that? How about that for a bold statement?
I don't want to get too into it. I don't want to blow our load because Airmail comes out on Saturdays. But the food, I'm not. You said British restaurant.
I'm looking at the menu right now.
I hope the food is not British.
The price points aren't that high.
It's not,
considering.
It's not crazy, and it's not. The I believe the owner is actually Chilean. So
Cruz.
He's from,
I see. Yes,
Cruz.
yes.
So he's from like a rich South American who went over to London. I think he was even a banker in the finance world before he became.
Those guys are known for having great taste in restaurants, so that makes a lot of sense.
100%. But I will.
Have you guys tried gnocchi?
Gnocchi was pretty good. The food was actually pretty good. The food was actually pretty good. But you have to go to 63rd and park and sit in this hideous room with just, I went and because it was empty, I was like, what does this place look like when it's not empty? And so I went and I looked on Instagram, which was a huge mistake. And it was just, I mean, it looked like the AVN Awards or something. I mean, it was just
crowd looking like the AVN when you were when you were doing your, because the history of the private club is very British to me. Like that's the ones that I became familiar with when I was younger. When before I moved to New York, I was a member of a place called Norwood. Did you find? Yes. Okay, okay. I just want to see if that came up in this.
I have. It's actually my favorite line in the review is about the Norwood Club, and I'm not going to say what it is because you'll chuckle when you see it. But the Norwood Club, it was just shut a couple years ago.
Oh, really? It's still open.
It was still open a few years ago.
Chris, did you cash in all your Norwood points in time?
Norwood, for some reason, charged me $1,000. For that was it, and I went fairly often because it was fun. It's funny. We knew the guy that ran it, and so we never had to pay, and so we went. It was basically 5 stories of places to do cocaine. I mean, that's all. You know what, Dan? You took the words right out of my mouth.
That's literally.
I did do cocaine in all 5 of those areas, and even a backyard. I think as well.
I think I did too. Terrace. Yes, and there was even a roof terrace where you could do cocaine. Yes. There was a screening room where you could do cocaine, and it seemed like and the only because this was like mid-aughts when it opened, and like wherever you went, all you heard was LCD Sound System. That was the only fucking music you heard. So it was like cocaine and LCD Sound System.
I don't remember the food at all, and I definitely ate there several times. I couldn't tell you one morsel of food.
Couldn't tell you.
I'm sure there was a crispy Brussels sprout on there that was dank.
I think it was before that. I think it was before Brussels sprouts were cool.
I think it was pre. Yeah, I think it was pre BS. Yeah.
Jason needs a second.
I think it might have even been pre Crudo. I think it might have been pre-Crudo.
It was pre-Crudo. It was pre-Crudo for sure. Yeah. It was a weird place, but it was pretty. It was like a really nice environment. It was a really. I mean, that's the thing about a lot of these places is that they are comfortable. The one Jason that Issy took us to in London, Oswald's. It place is insane. Yeah. It felt like it's so beautiful. It's so comfortable.
Yeah.
Like you do feel like you're doing something a little more special than just going to a restaurant. That being said, is it worth $250,000? Probably not.
No, I don't think so. And in London, the whole point, London basically shuts down at like 10:30, 11 o'clock. And so you kind of need a club over there so that you can go somewhere and keep drinking. And New York doesn't have that problem. New York is everything's open till fucking 4, if not later. In a lot.
But there's a lot of people in New York that have too much money and love to pay for the air of exclusivity. That's what the city is built on.
That's right.
That's what the city is built on.
That's 100% right. And there's more money here, and money has sort of replaced. Money is cultural capital now in this city.
Totally.
And it's really sort of damaged, I think. I think it's damaged the city. I mean, LA might have the same problem, but I think culturally, like LA is probably more important than New York right now in sort of American culture. I think everything's happening out there. And by the way, I'm not saying it's a good thing. I'm not saying it's a good thing because
it brings Dana no pleasure to say those
Balenciaga
words.
fashion show did happen in LA, but that's the only thing I can see. I don't know what else.
I see where Dana's going because when I was in New York for the last week, I was, like, hey, here we are, the world stage for everything, and I'm looking around and I'm not seeing it anymore.
I even feel like the fashion stuff that they do in LA gets so much more attention than New York Fashion Week.
Yeah, definitely. That's because it's still rare, and it's only like giant brands doing giant things. You know what I mean? They're spending like, if you're going to spend that much money, people are going to notice.
Did you? I know that you guys are fans of Bret Easton Ellis, and I actually think I learned about your podcast when he was talking on his podcast about going on your podcast. Is that possible? Like it's
sure, yeah,
it's so meta. And but so Bret wrote, and I know Bret is mostly known for fiction, but he wrote I think he's like a brilliant cultural critic, like brilliant. And he doesn't do that much writing, but he wrote a piece for Daily Beast about like over a decade ago. And it was this exploration of this idea of post-Empire America.
Yes.
It was when Charlie Sheen was like flaming out, and like the show was falling apart, and the money and the cocaine and like
winning.
Exactly. And so Bret wrote this.
Forgot about that.
But Bret wrote this brilliant piece about post-Empire America, and it was comparing like what we used to be and what was acceptable and what were cultural norms and where we are now. And it was like Kardashians are very post-Empire. Charlie Sheen doing, social media is very post-Empire. Donald Trump is like the most post-Empire figure you can have.
What are some examples of pre-Empire?
Like, those old clubs that you mentioned in New York, were absolutely, empire.
This is a Bret thing. Like the Empire, post-Empire thing is like it's a constant. He invented it, and he talks about it a lot. Like he uses it.
Oh, and by the way, he should.
Yeah,
and if I was starting a magazine,
indoor
or something,
smoking?
not that I'd be stupid to start a magazine at this stage, but I would hire Bret to do a post-Empire column because it explains everything we see. And to me, when I see like a Balenciaga fashion show in LA that is like so beyond absurd and tacky in my mind of just who is there and the clothes they're wearing and what these sort of famous French houses, a lot of them, not all of them, but who they're going after, who they're catering to. Doing it in LA is a choice as opposed to doing it somewhere else, and it just all feels like post-Empire. LA is the capital of post-Empire America, and Bret really nailed that. But I think like New York doesn't feel as culturally relevant as it used to be.
Yeah, I think the money part that you said, like currency is the new cultural currency.
Yeah,
and I think it's because everyone is just rich there. I mean, it's sort of like everyone. It seems like everyone has moved out of San Francisco because they're afraid of it.
Yeah.
Now I do my tech job in New York.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's pushed out. It's a really hard city to come to as a young person now. You can't, I mean, it's embarrassing. It's not embarrassing, but it sort of sounds like a humble brag to say like my first apartment on East 3rd Street was like $400 a month for a 2-bedroom that I lived in with my brother in 1992. And you could do that, and you could live really well on like $15,000 a year. And I just don't think you can do that anymore.
Yeah, but you can't do that anywhere. You can't do that.
You can't do that anywhere. But I do feel like I feel like LA, you can live cheaper than New York.
Yeah,
definitely. It's so
definitely.
spread out because suddenly you're living an hour and a half subway ride out in Queens from Manhattan or downtown Brooklyn, and your life is spent commuting. I guess your life's spent commuting in LA too, but
but you're in the comfort of your 2001 G-Wagon, so it's a little different.
Right.
Nobody is peeing on you.
That's right.
At the time.
I mean, LA is just boring as a motherfucker. I talk about it all the time. It's just really boring. Like I don't disagree with what you're saying, but I don't think that LA is.
That's why we microdose mushrooms every day.
There's no culture. People just do stuff there because the weather nice.
I'm not saying it's a good thing. And I couldn't live in a car. Like I need to be able to walk outside my door and make a left or a right and do 50 things within half a mile.
You never lived in LA, right?
Never lived in LA. No. I mean, used to spend a lot of time there, but it was always hotel living. Nice hotel living, by the way. Like it was
your
like,
hotel living in the book is really, that's the biggest throwback of the whole thing.
Oh, it was
were you at Bel Air, the Hotel Bel Air for a month?
First time in LA in 1995, I was 21 years old. And I went with Graydon for the Oscars for 2 weeks and Bel Air for 2 weeks. Like so calling me Mr. Brown and just like testing my expense account. Like I'd order like $100 bottle of wine, which by the way, in 1995 seemed excessive.
It is.
But I'd order it with like my burger for room service at lunch. I'd be like, is this going to get me in trouble? And then it would sort of escalate, become a $300. Like it was just, you could do anything.
You're pushing.
So my introduction to LA was like, and then it was Beverly Hills Hotel for years. And it was just like, you'd get a table at the Polo Lounge, and you would just like sit there and tell all your friends, like, yeah, look, like when you walk in the Polo Lounge, there's a banquet on the right. I'm sitting there from like 7 p.m. to 12. Just come by. It's all on me. Like that was my life. Yeah, which it's not now, by the way. Which sucks.
Everyone listening is like, you said expense account. What is that? I've never heard that word.
It's crazy to me, and once it's gone, and that's another thing about New York, by the way, is like, New York was a city where the expense account economy in the creative class, not just in the banker class, but in the creative class, was so important for sure. I mean, keeping this place humming.
When the the stuff happened in 2008, and there were all the New York Post articles about like drug dealers and strippers, like being the ones suffering the most, because everybody with an expense account was like, I can't. I'm sorry, it's over.
And it's all over. And that era is done. And so
now Hunter Biden's the only one with an expense account anymore, huh?
I know. And even he's in trouble now. Yeah. Jesus,
speaking of that, Chris, I have not read the book yet, unfortunately, but I was listening to an interview with you.
Don't worry. Chris hated it. He thought it was
no,
not
I did
great.
Not.
What was that?
No, I said you weren't a poet, which you're not. You're a writer.
By the way, I don't give a fuck.
No, Chris loved your book so much that we are having you on the podcast right now.
Well, the book, I mean, this is Chris bait to a nth
I
degree.
know it is. I know
it's a memoir about your life, but it feels like this was sort of written to get our attention.
100%. It was the only reason. I was like, when I first heard you guys, I was like, how the fuck do I get on this show? I know. I'm going to sell a book. I'm going to write the
Chapter
hardest thing in the world. To write a book.
So you said though this was supposed to be or it was originally a TV show?
I wrote about a decade ago, I wrote a like half an hour cable style comedy called Disappearing Ink. And it was like present day, like 40-year-old guy in a dying industry. And I sold it to Hulu. I mean, ages ago. And like all scripts, it went nowhere, and they just never returned my phone calls after like a rewrite. And everyone was like, "Why don't you go back? Like, do the original story. Like, start in the '90s. Like, don't start at the end where everything's collapsing and falling apart." So that was sort of the idea, and it was like a year after I left VF, and it was the money was running out, and it was sort of becoming clear that like print magazine editors like myself, who spend too much money on dinners and lunches, were just totally unhireable. And I just like, my digital skills are really bad.
To this day.
Really bad. To this day. I mean, it's gotten like maybe a little bit, it's passable, but not for like anything real.
You're no whiz on Substack.
I'm no whiz. I don't even know what like any of the acronyms mean. And so when if someone's like RSS feed, I'm like, oh yeah, of course. I don't know what anything is. I don't know what anything means. And so I was like, well, I guess I could write a book. And so that's how that came about.
Okay. I like that. That's how you got there. It sounds like it was really a passion project for you.
100%. Yeah. No, it was totally.
You're like, bro, I don't know. I guess I'll just write a book. Fuck it.
It was about the desperate need for cash in that moment.
When you do something like this, because I've always been told by people that if you like your life, you shouldn't write a memoir because it's going to cause you problems in your life. Would you say that is true, or did you get some clearances before you started putting pen to paper?
I kind of got clearances. I mean, I did, I told Graydon, of course, who's like one of the main characters. I was like, look, I'm going to do this book here. I'm going to show you the proposal. Hopefully you'll be okay with it.
People know you smoked, right? I just want to make sure that's clear before I get into this.
Exactly. Yeah. It's so funny you say that. It was like his one complaint to me about the book.
Too much smoking?
He was like, I didn't smoke that much. And it was like, yes, it was like, it was, this was before smoking was banned in offices. And you'd just be walking around the office with that was his one complaint. He was like, I didn't smoke that much. I was like, well, you kind of did. I mean, we all did.
You definitely did. We all did. Yeah. It wasn't just you. It wasn't just you.
I just can't imagine what it would feel like smoking a cigarette in your office.
In an office.
It's so cool.
And it's funny because I sort of had cover to smoke in my office because Graydon, after, I was his assistant for 3 years or so, and then I had my own office. And so I would just shut the door and smoke, but then other people would come to my office to smoke. And so, it was disgusting, by the way, to think about it, because it was like, the windows don't open.
Yeah,
so there were no windows that open. We were at 4 Times Square. So it's like a sliding, like a glass door that you close, and you have like 6 people like sitting in this tiny office in the middle of winter.
Like what people do at the airport.
And it's literally it is. It's like the Denver airport, that like enclosed glass thing. I mean, it's, now that I think about it, and I quit smoking, probably a decade ago. And by the way, if I get jittery, I'm not chewing nicotine gum right now for obvious reasons, because it would be really loud on this mic.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to start to get jittery soon, so I'm just warning you, because it's been half an hour without a piece of Nicorette.
But you're not sober, are you?
No, I'm not. It's funny. I did get sober a few years ago for 6 months.
Just to try it.
Just to try it, yeah. And it didn't really hold for me.
You don't say.
We didn't love her.
Yeah, it didn't really help.
Okay.
I kind of missed. It's funny. It didn't make my life any better. I got very skinny, which was like the best part about it. And I think, if I'm being totally honest, I probably got sober purely out of like vanity reasons.
Well, whatever it takes, I mean,
whatever it takes.
Many do that.
Whatever it takes.
So that means alcohol was the main factor?
I think
in the
so.
sobriety?
Yeah. I mean, I always drank too much.
Okay.
And
because cocaine doesn't make you fat,
No. I know. But see, the thing with cocaine is, at a certain age, you have to stop, because if my obituary, I'm just petrified of like cocaine death at 51. You know what I mean? Or whatever. It scares the shit out of me, because it's the most embarrassing way to go. Everyone will think you're like a complete cokehead and have been your whole life. And like, imagine that funeral. So
yeah.
I can't do any of that stuff. I stopped ages and ages ago. And I have the drink. I don't drink as much as I used to. There's something about aging,
of
where
course.
it gets harder. And the aging thing also. The vanity thing. Like, I wake up in the morning and after a night of drinking, and I look like a Shar-Pei until about 2 p.m. And it's just, I look at myself and I go, I can't.
It's a 2-day hangover, 3-day hangover. You're not going to go to that soul cycle.
My you know what? It's funny. My problem is, A, I don't get hungover, and B, I have as the Irish call it, a hollow leg. I have a hollow. I could just
keep it going.
Drink, be totally functional.
Yeah.
No one will think I'm drunk. But it's just, it's the vanity thing has gotten the best of me in my.
I think that's fine. I think that's okay, and I think we all.
It's a great motivator.
We deal with that topic on the show all the time. I mean, we think about that too. I mean, I had to stop because I was going to die, but the weight loss was a cool bonus.
Totally. It's like it was the best. But
that's what keeps me on the wagon, I think, is the fact that I would put on 20.
Well, and it's funny because I have 2 wardrobes. I have like skinny AA wardrobe from a few years ago, and then I have the like, boy, am I drinking way too much wardrobe. And the problem is that my perfect weight is probably where I am now, is kind of like in between those two things. It's not 145 pounds, it's not 175, and so it's sort of tough that my clothes are either like way too tight or way too baggy right now.
That is tough. I think you might
maybe Santa Claus will bring a 3rd wardrobe.
Yeah, I was gonna say, introduce a third.
It feels like too much. It just feels like too much effort at this point.
Yeah, definitely.
To do a third,
definitely.
And it's kind of embarrassing.
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of fun. Like buying stuff is fun.
Well, if you lived in LA, you'd be wearing sweatpants every day. So at least you're still in a place.
No, absolutely. I'm so, the whole athleisure thing, I'm so not on board with this. Not for public.
Are you a guy that doesn't wear shorts at all?
No, never. Unless there are very specific rules. No one wants to see a man's legs. I'm sorry. Nobody wants to see
You haven't seen my legs, Dana. I'll tell you that.
Well, are they good ones or bad ones?
Obviously good.
Okay.
No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding.
I
just love
I still don't
shorts.
want to see them unless there is a body of water
Yeah.
within walking distance. A man should not wear shorts.
Sure.
It's just my rule. It's my rule.
I've come around to that. I held out for a long time, but now I'm pants.
I mean, it's there. We've lost, like, culture has lost. We've lost all, like, norms of how we're supposed to behave. Like, what people wear on airplanes and in airports now is just it's an abomination. It's an like, you know. I remember my grandfather telling me stories of, like, well, everyone was in a suit and tie on the Pan Am flight to wherever. I think people should dress up a little for flying.
No, I agree.
That's a pre-Empire thing, I guess, right?
You know what? That's exactly right. That's exactly right. Like, wearing, yeah. That's right.
But also,
that's totally.
I think maybe a lot of people would be more inclined to dress up on the plane if going on the plane felt more upper class, I should say. Now, every time I go on a plane, I feel like I'm in a children's playpen or something like that. You know, everything's made out of plastic and shit stains on it.
That's what Delta One's for. You know what I mean? Like, that's what Delta One is for.
Well, that means you should only be wearing a suit or dressing up nicely if you're a first class person.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the way, the greatest, aside from flying private, which is its own separate thing, and the fantasy. Have you guys ever done a greeter? Have you ever used Delta greeters?
No, but I recently found out that this is something you just ask for.
It is. First of all, you can tell them that you are world famous podcasters.
How much does it cost? How much does it cost?
I don't know, because I've only done it with like famous friends who always get greeters. So they meet you at the front door, right? Before you even go in the airport, they take you a special way.
Yeah.
They take you a special way. You go like through the back of the thing. They take you to the front of the line of security. They take you right to the lounge. You sit in the lounge. So you're through so quickly. And then they take you on the tarmac. And Delta has a deal with Porsche. So you literally walk outside onto the tarmac into the back of a Porsche. They drive you to the jet. And then you go up that stairwell outside. And you go, and before anyone gets on the plane, you're already sitting there.
Chris and I have been on the Porsche one time.
The Porsche was just to take us to our connecting flight. Like, we had a layover.
Yeah.
This is the celebrity treatment, and I've seen this before, obviously, but I've also seen it where they come on the plane last.
Well, they ask you what you want. You have the choice. Do you want to get on first, or do you want to get on last?
You a top or a bottom, or are you verse? I just looked it up. The price tag, it's $350 per person.
Yes.
And then $100 for their
which is
guests.
It's not crazy.
I'm absolutely willing to do this. This is how do you just call Delta and you're like, I'm important?
I'm sure if you just Google, like, Delta greeter.
But if you're famous, this is someone is calling, your agent's calling for you. Are they paying? Is it free? Is everybody paying?
No, everyone's paying.
Everyone's paying.
Yeah.
I just looked it up as well. It's gone up to $500 now.
Okay. Which, by the way, if you're flying at a certain time of year out of a big if you're going through like a JFK, which is a disaster, like it's how much is it worth to save your time, save your time and
to maybe make a flight that you would be late for if you were going to sit in TSA.
Dana, based on this, have you taken the Blade service chopper?
Never.
To JFK, because I'm very interested in that as well.
No, I haven't done that, because it's getting from New York to JFK. I mean, it's like driving to Calcutta from here at this point. Like, it takes so fucking long to get. Like, it's crazy. I live on the West Side, so I'm always trying to fly out of Newark, and if I see JFK, I'm just like, I mean, hours now. Hours.
No,
like,
we were talking about this. We were talking about this earlier. It's an hour and a half minimum.
Easy. Yeah. Easy. And if you go in the middle of traffic, it can be like 2. I mean, I've missed flights that unbelievable. You know, that
I was in New York last week. I landed at 2:30, got to the hotel at 5 p.m.
Yep. I mean, it's a nightmare.
Have you ever been on a private plane and had a bad time?
I don't think that exists. I mean, it depends. I mean, unless you're
being trafficked, of course.
Unless you're on Epstein's plane.
If Chris gets on the private jet and they're like, "Bing, we're so sorry, the Wi-Fi is not working right now. We're gonna try to reset the system right now." What would you do, Chris?
Flying private is very different. You know, there's something wonderful about a commercial flight. I mean, if you're in, business or first, where they're bringing you drinks and you put your headphones on and you watch a movie or you watch a TV show, like that doesn't happen on a private jet. Like
on a private jet, you have to talk to the people you're with, whether you like them or not. But you do get to pre-order the food. The lead guest gets to pre-order. So if you're like,
yes,
I want fucking Kit Kats, M&Ms, and Diet Cokes, this shit is stocked.
Absolutely. I think the last time I was on one, it was like a bagel salmon cream cheese spread, and I was not
that
bad.
That part of it is nice. The idea that you can just like they ask you what you want, and you're like, yeah, I want fucking Nobu. Figure it out.
They'll do it.
You know what I mean?
Yeah,
cool.
They'll do it. But the best part is not having to go to a fucking airport and having a car drive onto the tarmac. They take your bags, put it in. You walk up the little jet plank or whatever it's called, and you're done. Like you're done.
And there's no customs either.
No, there's no nothing.
They come on. They come on, and they're like, let's see the passports, and then they walk off. There's no bag check or anything.
No,
which would be great for you, Jason, as a known drug smuggler. I'm just that would be nice.
Yeah. Depending on what country I'm going to.
Don't out him so publicly.
It's okay. It's not real drugs. He's not moving weight. It's light.
I'm not taking the fentanyl to Indonesia. I know where I'm going, what my rights are.
Exactly.
Different places are a slap on the wrist.
Well, and you got the other day, you guys were talking about the fentanyl T-shirt.
Yes.
Don't wear that on the flight. Don't wear that on the flight.
Somebody sent me a DM saying that shirt only works as Salem merch, which I thought was
the band. No, that's funny. That's funny.
Well, I wanted to talk about memoirs a little bit.
Yeah.
In addition to your memoirs, I know that you have worked in and around Keith McNally, who has a memoir coming out. Any memoir insights on that? You know anything about it?
The only thing I know about it, and I actually worked for Keith's brother, Brian. And that, like, the story of the dynamic of those two brothers who are both, Brian and Keith, both sort of East London kids who came to New York and worked in restaurants. They opened the Odeon with Keith's wife, Lynn, in the early 80s and became sort of stars, but they were like the Gallagher brothers of the New York restaurant world. They just fought all the time. So they went their separate ways. Brian opened Indochine, which is still around.
Classic.
And totally. And Keith went on to, major, I mean, probably the most important restaurateur in New York of the last half century.
Keith is Liaming and his brother is Noeling, we can say.
Maybe. And I love Brian and I really like both of them. I don't know Keith as well. When my book came out, Keith was living on my block for a little while. And so I saw which building he went into one day. And so I signed a book. This was about a year and a half ago when it came out. I signed a book with a nice note. Keith, your restaurants are all over this book and they've meant so much to me and they're great. And I have spent a lot of my expense account at your places. And I left it for him and I got I got like a DM on Instagram like 20 minutes later. And he said, what's your phone number? And I was like, is he going to call me? Like, this is interesting. And I got a call minutes later. I sent him my phone number and I got a call minutes later from the Balthazar reservations people. And they were like, just so you know, we're putting you on the fancy list. So anytime you need, and I was like, yes, I was like, literally,
that's the greatest gift a man can give.
Since having my children, it's like the greatest day of joy I've ever had. And it's so now, like, the only problem is that the only restaurants I now eat at are either the Waverly or one of Keith's restaurants, but for the most part. And Bond Street. Bond Street's another restaurant I go to if I want sushi.
Bond Street is back, isn't it?
But it's so Bond Street is one of my best friends opened it in 90. It's been there for
it's been there forever. It's
coming on. It's sort of this weird hidden gem in New York where it's super upscale, super expensive, but really fucking delicious food, like great food.
Good.
And
it's really good.
And it's just sort of my and listen, when you're treated well at a restaurant, it makes you want to go there. When you get the best tables, when there's that familiarity is nice.
Even if the food ain't great, you're still coming back.
Even if the food ain't great, like. And this, by the way, goes back to being a restaurant critic, and you're not really a food writer. You're writing about the theater of the whole thing and all that.
Tip to tail.
There is probably a draft in. I don't know when it comes out, but I kind of think it's going to be a classic New York book. just everything
how
he's
much
done.
How much help do you think he's had?
I think less than you think.
Really?
I agree. I think I think he's a good writer somewhere inside that fucked up head of his.
No, I think he's really, really well read. And, listen, I'm, obviously I'm not a great writer, but I managed to do a book. When you read a lot, and I worked with a lot of writers, you can sort of steal writing styles from other people in a way that you can't in other art forms, because people just be like you. But with writing, you sort of can. And I feel like you can come to it later in life, having read a lot or worked with writers, and be able to write yourself really,
I just think it's so hard to do. It's not about can he do it or not. It's about like, how committed are you to this? Because it's
based on his Instagram caption writing. I think he's got many books in him.
I think so too. And it just takes, it's just a long process. Writing a book is like, I mean, it's just a fucking endless process. And
especially when you don't have cigarettes.
Especially when you don't have cigarettes. I know. It's really brutal. It's funny because I think I like quit drinking when I sold the book and was really struggling on it. And when I started drinking again is when the writing really started coming back to me. And how I finished the book, which is, by the way, that is not an endorsement of drinking to write. I don't know if it's necessarily linked.
Calm down. All right, relax.
I don't know if it's linked, but
I'm a firm believer in writing inebriated and editing sober.
Yeah. Oh, that's It's kind of it's kind of a. Why do you write your reviews drunk or slightly askew?
Mushrooms.
Something?
I like mushrooms. I like to take mushrooms and write down the first pass,
but like a small dose, or like
not a heroic dose, not a heroic dose, but enough to feel trippy, enough for the keyboard to get a little silly, but not a microdose.
Now are you so not a microdose? Okay.
Yeah, some you can sink your teeth into, lay it all out, and then from there you can kind of start whittling it down just to get the thing from nothing, in the inception point, and then from there you can sand it down into something.
And do you like writing restaurant reviews? Do you enjoy it?
I don't know, man. I don't like reading or writing, but
I know.
And talking is my trade and what I do every day, and I feel like I'm good at doing that.
Yeah.
But there's just so much more and so many different, sometimes better ways to convey a feeling or a point that you can't just do it with your voice. You have to really write it down. And lay out a structure and do it all. It's, to me, it's like building a house versus building a city or something. It takes time and multiple people.
Yeah.
The problem is once you realize that you can podcast, writing seems very laborious. That was what happened to me. I mean,
totally.
like that's literally what happened to me. I was like, it's just like, wait, why would I?
Yeah.
I can do it this way, and people seem to really respond to it, and it takes a lot less time.
Yeah. I mean, you could say the same thing about a TikTok versus a film. I'm sure more people have watched a single TikTok of a guy falling down the stairs than May December.
Yeah.
But it's not going to touch in a certain way. And I'm very grateful that we have podcasting as a way to sort of start ideas and work them out. While being paid by McDonald's, and then those can turn into maybe a bigger overarching topic.
By the way, your McDonald's advertising fucking works, because I crave McDonald's like all the time. And the McDonald's, there's a McDonald's near me. Like I literally went to stop by a Christmas party and was walking home, and my son was home, and I like texted. I was like, "You want McDonald's?" And he's like, "Yeah, of course." And I just couldn't help myself. And the McDonald's, the McDonald's first of all, like most McDonald's in New York look like Mad Max now. Like you go inside and you can't believe it's like the apocalypse has happened.
There's a guy hosing blood off the ceiling.
There's like people just standing around, like homeless people, just like not like unable to move, and you're like, is he ordering? Is he waiting? Like, and the one on 6th Avenue and 14th Street is. Like you can't believe it. And I walked in there at like 9:30 p.m. on a Saturday night the other day, and I was like, this is the end of the world in here. I mean, it really is. It looked like a zombie apocalypse in the McDonald's. But the advertising works is all I'm saying.
How old is your son?
Thank you.
My son is 14.
Oh, so he's a little bastard. He's it's happening.
Yeah. Oh, but I have an 18-year-old daughter also.
Oh, hell no.
It's what's crazy is that like I had kids early for New York, but like late for the rest of the world. I think I had my first kid at like 33. But so now I'm in that moment where my kids don't, my daughter's off at college, my son's in high school and doesn't want really anything to do with his parents. Like he doesn't. So it's sort of like, well, what do I do now?
So they don't think you're cool, or where are they at? Where are you at with it?
I think they think I'm okay. I don't think they think I'm cool.
It is New York after all.
Yeah.
Competition is stiff.
What is he into? What is your son into? Is he like into like basketball? What are we talking about?
Well, yeah, basketball and soccer. He plays both of those. He's definitely gotten into the whole like streetwear hip hop thing, which I think you just can't avoid. I mean, that is the dominant pop culture.
So you're having to slave way over the keyboard to buy him some Travis Scott dunks, is what you're saying.
100%. And I made a movie, a documentary a few years ago that was about hip hop and skateboarding in New York in the late 80s and early 90s. I'm not part of that world. How I got dragged into this is a long story. But so as part of it, I got to know a lot of the Supreme guys. So I was able to go to Supreme, and the guy was like, yeah, I'll give you a big discount and everything. So I was like a hero very briefly.
Your son loved you for that year. That's
yes,
good.
and still wears some of the stuff. And my daughter.
That was the year my son loved me. I'll never forget.
That's that's my next memoir. That's
memoir number 2.
That's gonna be it. That's gonna be it. But Jason, I thought. But wait, to go back to restaurant reviewing, I thought your Noma review was great. I thought it was really, really good.
Thank you.
And I did a review. The reason I started doing reviews was a year and a half ago. Graydon called me at like the last minute. He was like, can you go to Noma tomorrow night? Whoa. Because they're doing a pop-up in New York and review it for us. Our critic has COVID. And I was like, oh yes, like, yeah, in a heartbeat.
What a call.
And secretly, the reason I wanted to do it is because I had just done ayahuasca like a couple weeks before, and I really wanted to write about it. But I didn't want to write a piece about ayahuasca. It was like the worst experience of my life, and I really wanted to write about it. And so I figured, and I was like, and the second he said that, I was like, Noma and ayahuasca are basically the same thing.
Yeah.
And so it's just this sort of the obsession of humans' desperation to be part of something and to then talk about something afterwards. Oh, you know what I did? Noma and ayahuasca are the same. So that sort of got me started in the restaurant thing. And Graydon was like, he's like, you should do this more often. I was like, yeah, totally. It's just taken a year to get it off the ground. Sometimes
that happens.
That brings up a something that I feel as well, which is it's such an easy thing to get your foot in the door.
Yeah.
The wheel is spinning and you're able to wedge your foot into it with a restaurant review. And then at least you kind of get reps and you get skin in the game and you're going, and then you can write about ayahuasca through the lens of Rene Redzepi, or I'm writing about Craig's, but it's about bad street art.
Exactly. And by the way, you have to pronounce it Craig's, not Craig's. It's too. You're giving it too much weight. I think
you're saying it. You're saying it like Craay.
Craig.
Yeah.
Craig.
I don't know.
I'll call it Craig.
I feel like it might be from a film or something. Some character named Craig. Hi, Craig.
It's from the film Friday.
Is it?
Where Craig at?
Yeah, where Craig at?
Craig. Well, that's a slightly cooler version than what I.
That is cool.
Well, I'm from Orange County at the end of the day, so I say a lot of words badly.
Yeah, we all do.
What are you doing right now?
What am I doing right now? Like a number of writing projects, TV, film, trying to get. I'm focused on. I'm going to have a bunch of TV projects and a few film projects. I am very focused on trying to get my book to TV screens.
For sure. Yeah, it's built for that. So you're just going the back way to your original goal.
You know what? By the way, it was kind of the plan. Yeah. It was kind of the plan, and it was sort of calculated. So my book is under option at Warner Brothers with Berlanti, who's sort of the best company in TV to be at. And we are getting close to taking this thing out. And I'm sort of excited. I'm excited because it's like a 90s New York show is kind of my fantasy show. and to be able to do it in a world that I sort of loved and was kind of insane.
To me, it's a little Just Shoot Me, Sex and the City, Will and Gracie, not so much.
No, I think I want something a little less sort of half an hour comedy and a little more.
Okay.
And this is a terribly cynical reference because I've never ever watched the show Suits, so I don't know what I'm talking about. But it's very popular, and I'm sure when I pitch this, I will drop the Suits word.
It's
but sort of like
Suits.
Suits. It's kind of like Suits, but like Suits with the sort of like backstabbing of Succession. Like Succession worked so, and I know, Chris, I know you didn't connect with Succession, which is fine.
What a sweet way to put it.
But the sort of like level of like luxury porn that was on screen,
yeah.
and just these like relationships and the conflict, and the media business in New York in the 90s was like brutal. It was brutal, and it was just, everyone was just trying to get people out of the way to get ahead. And it sort of makes great for sort of like dark, fun drama.
We need some more of that cuntiness on television nowadays, I said.
Absolutely.
The time is now. It's ripe, I feel like. I don't know. I mean, it's been long enough. It's been long enough.
It hasn't been explored. It's been long enough, and I don't think it's been explored. And you need a sort of like insular little world to come into, to explore the sort of bigger picture of that moment culturally.
Yeah, we need a comforting universe.
The question we have to ask is who's going to play you, if it's up to you.
Is Elordi too tall? What do you think?
I think he's too tall. I think he's too good looking. I think he's too old. I mean, I was like 20 when I was hired.
Oh, okay. So we need a 20-year-old.
We gotta find a twink. We gotta find a twink.
By the way, if like a Jacob Elordi wanted to do it, I'm like,
yeah,
he could be 27. It's fine.
We could figure it out.
I think that's just the way the business
We're not
works.
surprised to hear that.
Yeah. I think the more interesting question is who plays Graydon. And obviously it's not going to be Graydon. It's going to be a Graydon-like character.
A Graydon-esque character. So Graydon would be what? He'd be around 35 at the time?
In the early 40s. Early
40?
40s.
Okay, yeah. Early 40s. Okay.
Honestly, I think we're going to have to get like a serious actor in like a wig.
Maybe.
I don't think that there's no one that like favors him.
Yeah. It's tricky because it will end up being sort of a composite character because that's what happens.
Of course.
So I guess the question is, are you going to even make an attempt to make it look like great? Because like you just mentioned the hair, and like the hair is kind of iconic.
You can't do the hair as the reality, but you could do the trapping, like everything else. As long as everything looks like that apartment and that office and shit, then I think that kind of.
I would love a young Bill Murray to do that for some reason. That's popping in my head. I don't know why.
Yeah, he'd be.
Get the hair from Kingpin. I know Gosling can gain the weight. Maybe we'll see about that. Who knows?
No, I think that's that's really fun. I mean, that sounds perfect for TV, and I love the way. I love the way you did it this, like the way that did not make sense to you, but made sense to the industry that you are in, where it's like, I have to reverse engineer this. But I think that's a really smart.
And it only took like 10 years of my life. So
sure. Well, that's the thing that I've learned about television and film is that everything takes a very long time.
Everything, yeah, and then it's funny because once it starts going, it happens really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
But most things don't happen.
Yeah,
most things do not happen. And I made a movie a couple of years ago that happened incredibly fast, like so fast that we were like almost unprepared. Like, oh my god, we got to go make this. And but usually it's either like super fast or super slow, and it just takes years and years, and then dies basically.
Well, we're gonna have to change the name for TV because most people can't say the word. That's the only issue.
I know.
Like, I don't watch foreign films really. I know that word.
I know.
Oh, not subtitles.
I did a podcast. Like when you put a book out, you basically say yes to everything. Like, your publisher's like, all these podcasters want to talk to you. And I did one with some woman in the South. Like there was like 8 people. It was like Instagram Live. There were literally like 7 people on it, if that.
Mm-hmm.
And she introduced me. She said, he's the author of Dilettante. And I was like, and I didn't know whether I should correct, like if I corrected her, would she then hate me for correcting her? And do I look like an asshole?
You just got to let that one go.
So I think I just let that one go, and I think she was mispronouncing it the whole time. And so if anyone goes to Amazon, like, how do I spell dilettante? And they're buying like an Italian cookbook by accident.
I was gonna say that sounds like a type of salsa.
Yeah, exactly.
Enjoy
dilettante.
All right, Dana. Thank you for joining us on How Long Gone.
It was
a pleasure.
Really, really fun. Yeah. Thank you guys for having me, and Chris, maybe I'll see you at like one of these Christmas parties or something.
I know. I hopefully I'm around. I know. Hopefully I'm around.
Well, the next time I'm in New York, we should link up because I've actually never eaten at Odeon.
Oh, let's do. Let's
really,
do. Let me know when you're here.
Know that.
Oh, we got to take you there.
Oh yeah, definitely. Yeah, that's one.
I know, Dana. I know that you've been. You know that place like the back of your hand.
I remember the Odeon when you could still smoke in the Odeon, which was
what's your order? What's your order there?
My lunch order is just a salad and a piece of grilled salmon, very rare.
Okay.
Kale salad?
The kale. I get the kale salad with like a piece of salmon. Perfect lunch. Okay. Dinner, I always go steak free when I'm at a place like that. I just can't help myself. I can't help myself.
Nothing wrong with that. And what to drink?
I used to have lunch at Odeon every single day during a particularly like bad boozy period of my life. And I would sit there and drink a bottle of Sancerre with lunch alone. Like the other person wouldn't be drinking, and I'd be like, "Oh, a glass of wine?" And they would just literally put it on the table when I showed up.
Oof, I love that.
Now I would probably have a glass or two of red.
Okay.
Nice big Bordeaux, maybe.
Oh, big Bordeaux. Oh,
big Bordeaux.
Baby.
Or no, an Italian. Big Italian
and then a nice little piece of Nicorette at the end of the meal.
It's the best. It's the best way.
Oh, that's my dessert, baby. No, but honestly, thank you. It was a pleasure. And we'll definitely hang. We'll definitely hang soon.
100%. And Odeon when you're here.
For sure.
Sounds good, Dan.
Thank you, guys.